Welcome back to the podcast. Today we welcome James Wilson, who is a coach that I've worked with for a number of years, but has now expanded his journey to working in loads of different countries across the world. And he is pursuing his coaching career in different environments. So this should have some really interesting insights for coaches because he's got a wealth of experience in the UK as well as abroad. And we're just going to go through that and what he's learned from it and how he has used that to help develop players along the way. So James, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. Yeah, pleasure to be here, Seb.
Good stuff. We've obviously worked together for a while, but we did work together for a while. Now we've probably not worked together for a fair few years now. But just for all the listeners, talk us through your coaching journey, where it started, and kind of where you're at now.
Okay, so I'm from East Kent in the UK, and my coaching journey started around 18 years old. I was playing a little bit of local football at that time. Decided to get into a bit of volunteering coaching. Did that for about a year or so, and then went to University of Portsmouth, and I was looking to pursue a career in sport. I wasn't exactly sure where I wanted to go, but I know I liked sport, and I know I liked watching sport, playing sport, and my passion was football. So I started in my second year volunteering with a youth team at the time that was linked to University of Portsmouth, and it was an under-11s team, and I started helping one of the coaches who was on my sport and exercise science undergrad course. And yeah, just that's how everything started. That year I did about 6 months worth of volunteering coaching, and in my third year I didn't do quite so much because I had a lot of things going on with my studies. But that's where everything started. And after that I went straight to the US after my undergrad finished. Worked with UK International Soccer for 4 months out in the States, and that was my sort of first real foray into coaching. At the time, I wasn't a great coach at all. I didn't really know what I was doing, and I just took the plunge and went out there and had this life experience, really more than a coaching experience, I would say, revolving around communication with the kids who are playing massive wide range of abilities, from just starting football, barely kick a ball, to quite good, maybe a state level player. And then just sort of went through back to England and started working with yourself at TSC and Total Sports Coaching in the schools and in the football programme. That was my main start.
So that's honestly, and everyone is pretty similar. Most people that have made it to working full time in coaching started similar. Volunteering's a big part of it. I think obviously there's a lot of value from volunteering. A lot of people that were listening will be doing that as well. But when did you decide then you wanted to go? Because obviously then when you come to work with us, you had made that decision in your head of, look, this is where I want to go. I remember the first time I met you, you sent me a load of stuff you'd done, a load of studying you'd done, a load of working on detail of analysis and things like that, which showed that you had you wanted to progress in the game. So when did you make that decision of, I want to coach? Because you said obviously you didn't know what you wanted to do at the start.
Yeah, I think it was after I'd been to the US and I came back. Actually, I missed out a little bit of the story. I came back to England, I think it was Halloween 2014 at the time. And I was looking for what to do next. I did an internship at Peterborough United for 6 months, starting in January 2015, I think it was. And it might have been a little bit earlier, but I started then with Peterborough. I wanted to get more experience in the sports industry. I did an internship for 6 months out there. And I came back and I was thinking, this is something I want to do. I want to work in football. I like talking to people about football. I like thinking about football. I want to give it a go. And I never wanted to do a normal job. I wanted to do something a little bit different. And as we know, coaching is not really a normal job. It's a completely different skill set and aspect. But I did the internship at Peterborough. I was working as the academy operations manager at the time, which basically is getting the academy performance plan ready for the next season. And for those that don't know, that's basically a document that underlines the academy process, the structure, and the vision for the next few years of the academy at Peterborough. And then I came back in the summer. I was looking for some coaching, and Dave Robertson, who was the academy manager at the time, now it would be called academy director, but the person who runs the football academy, he gave me some advice that to go into schools, to go and do different sports, coach every age of player, every ability of player, different types of ranges of kids and children, and to get more experience of teaching and that's why I contacted you, and I wanted to get more experience of those different types of experiences within the sports industry and football, of course, and learn from like yourself, someone who's a bit further on the journey than I am at the time. But yeah, my time in the US and in Peterborough made me realise, okay, I like coaching. I really enjoy it. I love coaching. I love football, and I want to pursue it. And I didn't know where I was going to go, but I wanted to start that journey.
So, all right, let's go on to a bit where you work for us then. So, obviously, the work we were doing at the time, variety of different schools, doing all different types of sports, working with every kid, working with toddlers, doing sessions for youngsters. At the time, I don't think we were doing our 16 to 19s, or we might have just started.
Just a year after, I think.
But then we had our private academy stuff where we were working with players from the local areas that wanted to try and progress and reach their potential. So, what would you say when you first came in? You were quite new to all of it, and I'd imagine it's quite a quick learning curve, which you took to. What are the main things you learned during that first few years of doing that, would you say?
I think so at the time I was working with experienced coaches like Alex Fitzjohn, who'd working with TSC and Total Sports Coaching at the time. We'd been working at high level within the academy structure at Gillingham. People like yourself, obviously, in the schools, have been there a while. I think the first thing I take away is just like organisation, preparation, so that when I've got 30 kids for a dodgeball session or a dodgeball lesson or whatever it is in a school, whatever type of sport, basketball, football. Being prepared, what am I going to do today? What do I want the kids to achieve in the session, in the lesson? And how do I go about doing that? And I think the second thing is like the communication aspect as well. So working with kids very, very young, obviously they're still learning how to learn the language of English. Like, how do I communicate to them in a way that is understandable for them in their language, which might be, more child-based in terms of like making imagery, talking about superheroes, talking about players, talking about things that they can relate to. So the communication aspect is really important. I think at that time I would speak very quickly. I'm naturally quite a quick speaker, having to slow things down so that they can understand. The preparation is very important, because if you're not prepared and you've got 30 kids of 5 years old, it's going to be very difficult. So it's like a foundational pillar of coaching and teaching. The communication and preparation, the organisation is so important. If you don't have that, then the rest of the session lesson is going to be difficult.
And it's interesting now as well, because you were quite new to it then, but by the end of your time with us, if I went, oh, actually, you've just got to take 30 kids for a dodgeball lesson in the next 10 minutes.
Yeah.
By that point, you could probably just go, no problem, I can do that. Because you've built up that bulk and that catalogue of experiences and stuff like that. And in coaching, I think that's what we say to a lot about coaches on the courses and stuff like that. Is when you've been doing it so many times and you see that, right, this team, you start to recognise trends, right? They're not getting success because they've not got enough width. Because you've seen it over and over again. I know a session to do and help with that because of those many, many experiences. But then I suppose you get the danger of, and it's something that people are in danger of, have they been coaching for 10 years or have they been doing the same session each year for 10 years? And you've always been a coach that has really tried to do a lot of learning away from coaching. So at that time when you first got into coaching, what did your time away from the pitch look like?
Yeah, so I think it was generally looking at games. At the time, it was more like a very elite level at Champions League, Premier League, that sort of level, the highest level of the game, and looking about certain things I want to work on during my session, for example. So, saying working with a group on switching play, I might look at a game and think, okay, what technical things are happening during the game that I can pick up to maybe help the players or the kids in my session I'm going to have on a Monday night, for example, at TSC. So there's obviously clues in terms of the experts are going to do things to a high level because they are so well practiced in the technical abilities of the game because they've done it thousands of times. Looking at games and seeing how can I take that into my session. Looking at games generally, I would try to, at the time I was looking at different aspects of maybe build up or I don't know, be finishing phase, like the last part of the pitch, and sort of looking at games over the weekend, looking at highlights of match of the day, and thinking, okay, how can I writing things down? What things are good? Making video clips, putting them on my laptop. So sometimes specific stuff, looking at certain parts of the game in football, and sometimes more general, just looking at a football match and thinking something would pop up to my head, and I would relate that to a football session. Looking on YouTube, looking at other coaches on YouTube at a high level, watching people in other sessions, other academies, that sort of thing, different clubs, looking at how they do things, how do they say, how they communicate to the players, what different strategies are they using during the session. So I'm very much a person who I like learning, I like discovering new things. So grabbing from everywhere and try to bring it to my own personal ideas of how to coach, how to teach, and other teachers as well, even teachers at the school as well, thinking how do they speak to the kids, how do they put a smile on their face, how do they make the environment enjoyable. So just grabbing from everywhere and try to make myself better as a practitioner, I would say.
How all right, so let's break down your week. You were probably working 30 hours a week for us at the time.
Yeah.
How many hours were you doing on stuff like that, analysing and trying to improve yourself as a coach?
At the start with TSE.
Yeah, just through your journey, because I think you've always been one of the best learners away from work. So what I always say to people now, young coaches that want to progress, if you're a grassroots coach that's coaching your team, right, if you can spend, and that's what you want to do, you're coaching your kids' team, if you can spend half hour a week planning your session, trying to think of like a new way to do something, or maybe learn a little bit about receiving on the back foot, that's fine. Half an hour a week, if you can spend that time, great. If you've got aspirations to go work at the top level of the game or progress through your badges, which some coaches do, how much are they doing away from their coaching? So it's kind of how many hours a week would you say you put into your development as a coach that's not on the grass?
Yeah, obviously it varies depending on which week, but yeah, some weeks I might watch 2 or 3 sessions.
Yeah.
So I was lucky a little bit later after I joined TSE, after maybe 6 months to a year, watching people like yourself and Alex at Gillingham's Academy. So some days I might go on a Tuesday and a Thursday to watch 2 sessions at Gillingham. So that's 3 hours worth of watching the session, but also obviously going up to the session, thinking about the session afterwards, reflecting on it as well. So that could be in a week, say 4 hours, 5 hours worth of watching and reflecting on the sessions at Gillingham. And then at the weekend, watching match of the day, writing things down, watching a game, analysing it for an hour and a half, maybe analysing it for an hour afterwards. So I think in terms of week to week, I would say between some weeks it might be 1 hour, and some weeks it might be 10. So I would, between that sort of range, I would say week to week in terms of development. Every week I'll be doing something at a time to develop as a coach. But yeah, 1 week might be more intense. I might be watching 2 sessions, watching 5 games at the weekend. Another week I might not watch a session, and I might just with my planning for the session, all of my planning is quite intense in terms of the preparation, but another week might be less. It might be just an hour or so, or 2 hours. But that's the sort of range I would say.
Yeah, so it's interesting as well, because I'm talking to a podcast we just done with Zach, who's always worked at non-league level, and said he's probably done 3,000 games in the last 10 to 15 years at non-league level, because that's his level, and that's the level he's going to work at. Whereas you've aimed a lot of your learning at the top level. Is that because the pathway you want to take is more elite rather than non-league, would you say?
I think I was always interested in player and like child development. I think it's easier to sort of get into working with younger age groups, and I started off working with like kids at TSE, for example, 5 until 18 years old, that sort of age range, and not working with adults. And I really enjoyed the process of coaching kids and helping them to develop their aspects of football. So I think it was more in terms of my development outside of football, outside my sessions, was geared towards development. And I really like watching. I appreciate non-league now more than I ever have done, and I really enjoy non-league football. I like when I come back here, I'm going to be watching some non-league football. But I think the development aspect was always really enjoyable for me, and I saw myself in the future having a career within football development rather than with non-league, for example, or first team level. I don't know how it will work in the future. Maybe I will do. I think for me, football is football, and I enjoy coaching, and I enjoy development, and you can still have development within first teams as well. But I think the youth development was always my passion, I would say, within my journey.
Yeah, that's good. So you've mentioned there, obviously you came to work with us at Gills for a fair few years, but there's that stage of you just up there watching sessions, and there's always this thing that people moan about, that it's about, football's about who you know, and etc. etc. Whereas actually you came back to England really not knowing anyone in football. You carved those ways. So how did your journey with obviously getting into the academy at Gillingham, how did that work?
Yeah, so like I said, I came back to England after being in the States, did my internship at Peterborough, and then came to start working with TSC. So obviously having people at TSC who are working in Gillingham was good, because it gave me a little bit of access into, okay, I want to go and watch a session. Can you ask one of the the managers or coordinators at Gillingham if I can watch a session? So it wasn't straight away. I wasn't first day at TSC asking, can I go there? I was, okay, first thing I want to try and get better at coaching, better at teaching. And then after that, I was more intrigued about, okay, I want to progress my coaching a little bit. I want to watch some other coaches who've got more experience than me, that are better than me at coaching. And then, I was lucky enough to be able to start watching sessions up at University of Kent. And I would come in most sort of weeks, sometimes twice a week, sometimes once, and I would start watching sessions from the balcony, from the top, which was great. And then I was invited to come watch down on the pitch. And I can't remember what session it was, but there was a midweek session, and it was a coach development session, mainly for the Gills development centres.
Yeah.
And I was there just like taking notes and stuff, and like I think I was watching Alex's session at the time, and I don't know what it was about, I can't remember, but I was making notes. And then Gills, they wanted another hub coach, like an assistant coach, to come in with individual development at the time. And I got a call a couple of weeks later. I think it's from you actually. Said that Gills want to bring you on board. And the feedback I got was because when I was watching the sessions, I was the only one with a notepad. Like I was the only one going a little bit extra with my reflective development in watching the session. So I was very keen. Like if I want something to happen, I'm going to find a way to do it. And I was very passionate about advancing my coaching, working with better players. So that was it. The way was, okay, go and watch sessions, go and ask people, go and talk about football, go and be excited to learn, and eventually I got the opportunity. So thanks to yourself and Alex and people like Rob at Gillingham and Brian that helped me get on that process of becoming a better coach.
And it's that key, isn't it? Of you always say, how do you come across? And you always come across as someone that's really interested to learn, but also polite, respectful of the environment, keen to learn there consistently as well, and you're putting yourself out there as a coach. So, what can you remember a couple of the, like when you have those little nuggets in your head of moments when you've watched a coach and you're like, I really like that, even if it's something small. Can you remember anything from all those sessions you were watching that have just stood out to you that you still remember now? Put you on the spot here.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. No, I think I remember watching one of the early sessions at Gillingham and Rob was doing a session. Rob Peck, and the foundation phase leads coach at Gillingham at the time, and I think still is now. And there's a few things I work on in terms of the way the players switch play and about the movement. And he was talking about, I think it was one of the wingers. To move wide once the centre midfielder touches the ball. So like those little details about moving to space at the right time, the timing of the run to move into space. So I think the guys in the academy system in Gillingham at the time there were some really good coaches, and I was watching sessions and just taking little bits like that about the details of the practice. But that was one thing that sort of stuck out that I can remember now. I can very clearly remember that him coaching that. It was a right winger that was moving out into space at the time. And just in terms of the little things that stuck out, I think it's just like the organisation of the practice. Like it's very, very smooth. There's not like wasted time. It goes from one thing to another very clearly. All the players are engaged. All the players are enjoying themselves. It's competitive. So I think I've seen a lot of football sessions, and a lot of football sessions look very similar. There's no sort of like secret source to football. Like it's very basic, and the detail and the organisation of the practices and the energy as well from the coaches is something that that I saw happen quite a lot within the academy structure at Gillingham.
So with right, so let's talk about academy football in general. So you've come through where we're from the private academy into obviously a pro academy. What was the biggest? What were the big differences from the start? Well, from even actually looking at grassroots to private academy, then into obviously a professional academy. What were the biggest differences you saw there?
Yeah, so I think the first thing we'll be going is the kids, the players. As you sort of progress through your coaching journey, going up the coaching ladder, let's just say, working from grassroots to their private academy to youth academy, the level of the players is better. So the ability to make decisions is better, body shape is better, technique is better of passing, shooting, dribbling, defending is better, competitiveness is better, toughness is better, speed of play is better. So all these things start to move up very quickly, and I distinctly remember coming into certain levels of my coaching journey and thinking, okay, wow, this is different. You put on a passing practice or possession practice, whatever it is, and everything's just quicker. And sometimes you have to. It can take you a couple of days to sort of get your head around that and readjust to it, and then it's normal. So once you get up to a certain level, the speed of play becomes quicker, and you have to adjust quite quickly. So obviously going from a grassroots to working with TSC, the players are of a good standard, and they're moving with the ball better. It's more effortless. The passing's better. They get in front of goal. They typically score. And then going to Gillingham, okay, that level becomes even higher. And then when I worked at Charlton, for example, it goes another level upwards. And then with Charlton, we're playing against teams like Chelsea, we're playing against Arsenal, and it's even better. Like, it's world class. Like, in terms of a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, 12-year-old, it's world class. It's the highest level. So those things are the first thing that I remember in terms of the quality of the players. In terms of the environment, everything's just more slick, I'd say. Obviously at TSC, like we were very good coaches, and at the time working with very good coaches, very organised and stuff like that. And that gets brought into the academy system as well. It's very, very similar because a lot of the boys from TSC are working at Gillingham as well. So there's very similar types of communication. The organisation is very similar. But yeah, just in terms of, for example, youth academies like Gillingham, like Charlton, the organisation for the games at the weekend, you know where you're going, you know how you're going to get there, you know which players you have. Everything's very organised. It's very easy. So the coaching is the part that you really put your energy into. You're not thinking about like covering up for people's mistakes. Everything's very organised and allowing us to do our best as practitioners. So I think the organisation and the standard of players are the main thing for sure.
What about match days? What would you say? How would you describe a typical academy match day? As in, like your role as a coach, the focus on winning versus development, the opposition, just anything about match days. What would you, for someone that's never experienced a match day in an academy, how would you explain what they're like?
Yeah, so for a home game, for example, we would players would typically arrive like an hour and a half before kick-off or so, and they would go into the changing rooms and sort of accumulate there, and we would go into we'd typically go out like 2 hours before, so sort of half an hour before the players would arrive, and then we would typically have some kind of team talk before we go out to warm up. So it might be with a tactics board, it might be through other methods, but typically it would be two of us coaching. So say for example, when I was working with Alex at under 11s at Gillingham, he would be the lead coach, I would be the assistant coach. He would take charge of the group team talk about what the objectives for the game are, in terms of how we're going to play with the ball, without the ball, transition, maybe a little bit of set pieces, but not like a 30-minute team talk, maybe 10 minutes at max, typically about 5-6 minutes or so. And then I would be looking after the individual players. So my first role with Gillingham was as a hub coach, which is like an individual coach that would work with different age groups. So one time I'd be with Alex under 11s, sometimes with yourself under 12s at the time, depending on who needs me. But I would look at individual players. It might be with, okay, can you look at this player in terms of how he receives the ball, his body shape? And then I would sort of give them maybe a couple of challenges relating to that task. And I would, maybe Alex might give me certain things to measure in terms of how many times we build up past the halfway line successfully, for example. So, that sort of role between the assistant and the lead coach. Then we go out for a warm-up, typically about half an hour before the game starts. We'd go out for a warm-up. Some kind of physical warm-up for a couple of minutes. Little bit of technical warm-up without opposition. Maybe some passing or a passing circuit, or then go into some maybe 1v1s or like a passing practice, possession practice. And then finish up with with finishing, like 3v2 finishing or unopposed. And then we played the game before 4 periods, 20 minutes, with like a few minutes in between to have a team talk. And after the game, like most games, really come back into the dressing room and have a bit of a debrief. Some days we wouldn't say much because maybe the game has been so intense that we wouldn't say too much, and we'd feedback the next time in training. Or maybe we might sit down for 5 minutes, 10 minutes and talk about it. But yeah, that would be a typical match day. And I think the players would get a lot of freedom in terms of like how they're thinking about the game. We wouldn't give them all the answers. We'd provoke them and we give them questions, and it allowed them to think about football.
So in terms of, right, it's 4 20-minute periods. What are the coach behaviours typically like that you experienced during play of those 20 minutes and then during the break, like in specifics?
So yeah, during play, I think for me it's very important for the coach. Obviously, there's variance between coaches, but I think it's very important as a coach to encourage the players and to guide them, but not direct them. When they're on the ball, okay, pass, shoot, dribble. That's, for me, it's an absolute no-no. We can't do that because we're influencing their decision. And there are kids that are very creative, and if we're telling them what to do, we're going to stifle their creativity. So it might be like, get your eyes up, okay, look, where's space? So it's like little probing questions that help them make a better decision, but we're not telling them, okay, pass it to the striker. That's very important for me. Also, the sort of art of coaching for me is, what's the situation like? Sometimes as a coach, you might have to really just step back and let the players. The game's a lot for them at the moment. It's very, very competitive. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of tackles. It's physical. It's tiring. Sometimes we have to step back and just let them breathe. And sometimes we have to drive them. Maybe they're a little bit sleepy. Like, with kids, sometimes in the morning they can be a little bit off it, and we need to drive them, really push them. And when I mean push them, probably off the ball more, like defensively, positioning a little bit. Again, not influence their decision, but like we might have to guide them in certain areas, and I emphasise guiding. But yeah, that would be typically in terms of how the typical sort of behaviours I saw at Gillingham and the ones I would do as well. In terms of winning versus development, for me it's very important to. There's a spectrum, and I think we have to try to win. Of course, it's football, it's a sport. We need to try to win, but we can't undo all of our morals in terms of how we want to play. We want to play in a certain way. We have to be adaptable in terms of the opposition, but we have to be always geared towards development because it's youth development. It's not youth winning, okay? And when they're younger, 9s and 10s, that development needle will be a lot more towards development. More time on the ball, more time to dribble, more time to be greedy, I would say, for themselves, play for themselves. And then as they get older, that needle goes up more towards winning and more towards team-based. And for me, it's very important in the academy system. We're developing individuals, we're not developing teams. But if the team doesn't have some kind of structure, then it's very hard to develop individuals because it's just pure chaos. So I think as you go older, that development needle sort of shifts more towards winning.
What age would you personally say the needle goes? Say you've got the halfway point from development to winning. At what age does it tip past development towards winning initially?
Yeah, good question. I would say that as we're sort of getting towards the middle of the teenage years, I think it's getting more towards that winning side. I think well, obviously even when they're 21, 18, they're still developing, of course. But winning is important, and at those ages they're very volatile in terms of if they're losing a lot of games. It's going to be very hard to develop too much in that respect. So I think probably around 15 or so, I think that's when it starts to tip more towards winning.
Yeah, I've asked you that question without knowing my own opinion on it, to be honest, and I would say 15 is probably the first point it tips. The first point is, in my opinion, because you are increasing the reliance. That once they get towards 14, you're starting to go, look, it's not just now about individuals. We have got to start looking at winning. But I think the danger that you get then is, as soon as you prioritise winning over development, it can be negligent towards your individuals. So the easiest example, and I always use this, is if you've got a player that needs to develop their other foot. So let's say you've got a right winger that is brilliant at getting down the line and crossing the ball, but they won't use their left foot and they can't cut inside and use their left foot. Once they get older and they play against someone who can figure out how to stop them to get down the line and cross it, if they haven't got another part of their game, that's it. They're ineffective. So they have to have the different parts of their game. So it might just be, and then you've got to figure out, well, why won't they use their left foot? Is it confidence? Is it a technical thing? Is it physical? But if it is something as basic as they don't trust themselves to use their left foot, then one of the easiest solutions is put them on the other side of the pitch, where actually a lot of the time they're going to have to go down the line and use their left foot. If they get better at doing that, then when you put them back into their position, if they're more comfortable on their left foot, they should be more effective. Now, by putting that player on the other side, you are less likely to win a game. It's as simple as that. Yeah. And that's where, if you focus too early on, it's about winning, that player's not going to develop that aspect of their game.
Yeah.
And then you're harming their longer term development. Same with if you've got someone, say you've got a striker, brilliant finisher, can do all of that, but their 1v1 defending is awful. And in the modern game, strikers have to defend.
Yeah.
So actually, put them at left back for 20 minutes, or put them at right back, because that's where you're going to get a lot of 1v1 defending. Again, you're going to lose the game. You might lose the game because of it, but that player will develop. And I think that's where the kind of understanding of that balance is, of where do we need it to be. You obviously then moved on to Charlton, but when you was at Charlton, you said obviously you played your Chelseas, Arsenals, etc. Yeah. And you won't know what happens within those, but from the outside looking in, do they have a focus on both of you've got to individually develop and you've got to win, or are they just still individual? Just from your opinion of what you've seen.
Yeah, I think the luxury these guys have is, like Arsenal, Chelsea, these teams, is they've got the best players, so they're generally going to win most of the games. But I know, like, they are almost sort of planning some kind of like bumps in the road for them to lose games. For these teams, they very much think that we need the kids to be challenged in terms of losing a game. They might cry, they might get upset. That's fine, but they need those challenges along the way. In terms of when we played against those teams, they always used to come and say we really like playing against Charlton, because we would play really well as a group. We'd always compete. We got had very tough kids at Charlton in terms, and still doing the academy. So they always give these Chelsea, Arsenal teams a good competition. In terms of individual development, I know that, for example, in Arsenal, they do a lot of 1v1 practices. So a lot of their stuff in the foundation phase is not really much more than like 5v5. Doing lots of 1v1 practices, lots of small group work. So that is their sort of individual development program. And they would be very careful in terms of, I don't know, I can't speak for them. Yeah. I'm sure they'd be very meticulous in their planning. Again, okay, who am I going to put in this 1v1 group? Which 4 players are we going to put together to stimulate development, to increase their ability in terms of their development. So in terms of those teams, I think they're leaning more towards small groups in the foundation phase in terms of their development. And I don't think I can't speak for them again, but it's not important whether they win the game in a friendly in the games program. The most important thing is that the players are developing. But now there is also a difference in terms of, okay, when they go to the Winter Truce tournament, for example, under 12s, if they win the tournament, getting exposure to winning is good. And if you win the tournament, if you play in the final, that's the game that's going to give you the most mental stimulation. It's going to give you the toughest game, because you're playing the best team, most like the best players in the tournament. So putting players in those positions where they're fighting for a trophy, they might lose the game one year, they might win it the next year. That's also very important. So I think it's very much a balancing act between, okay, when we're going to really focus on our development of the players, and then also some days, okay, we're going to go win this, like, because that's going to be good as well. So it's very much a balance, and that's the art of coaching. That's what I really enjoy. I really enjoy that balance. Okay, this is going to be an easier game. Let's push some players, play players out of position, and then okay, this one's going to be tough. We need to try and win this, because that's football. We have to eventually. They're going to have to try and win games when they're older.
I think that's one thing that I always looked at the system and thought, right, if I was able to change something, what would it be? Because mainly based around this balance between individual development and winning. And it was probably to identify that once a month we go, right, we're going to have one game a month where the aim is to win.
Yeah.
But the way I would do that personally is put the ownership to the players. Because it's about the players' tactical development, not the coaches. So I'd be like, right, this game, we are playing 4 quarters. Our aim is to win each quarter. So we'll base it in quarters rather than the whole game. Right. But then after a quarter, the players have to decide, how do we tactically need to play to win this game? Yeah. Whether that's change formation, whether it's change players, where players are playing on the pitch, whether it's our tactics of, right, well, actually, they're very strong centrally, so let's play wide. But let them come up with those decisions, because they're making the decisions that will help them, that when they're on the pitch, when they're older, and they need to quickly analyse situations and adjust, they will then be able to do it without coaches leading it.
Yeah.
So I would like to see that as an experiment. And then you've got to obviously then create the environment where the players are comfortable to analyse things tactically, make decisions, communicate, show leadership. Yeah. That's something that I don't know if that happens at other places. It might do. But if people always, if there was one way I would like to try and experiment with something, it would be that. And I've got on the podcast, we're going to try and get some people on from the top academies. Obviously, Chelsea, Arsenal, Tottenham. Yeah, they're world leading academies. They are well ahead of most setups. Resources obviously help that, but it'd be really interesting to see how they do things, because you'll probably know this better than me because you're better with stats. But I think there are one criticism academies get is players come in at under 9s and they don't always make it into the Premier League or professional footballs. But I do believe that the stats on players coming in earlier at the top clubs, the amount of those getting a career in football, whether that's Premier League, League One, League Two, Championship, is growing and growing and growing. That's what I believe. I don't know if you know anything.
Well, we saw that from the Euros, the England team. Most of the vast majority of the England team in the Euros were in academies for under 8. Yeah. So academies must be doing something right to have players in there for 10 years, 12 years and playing for the best team in the country.
Did a lot of them start at, I'm challenging you here off the top of your head, did a lot of them start at Cat 1 academies or lower category academies?
I think it's quite a lot from category 2. I can't exactly recall, but I know obviously John Stones at Cat 2. I think Pickford might have been Cat 2 at the time as well, but I think a lot of them were from either Cat 1 or Cat 2 and some Cat 3. Yeah. I think to me, I think academies are doing a very good job in this country at developing players. Yeah. And for me, it's very important also to give them an opportunity, like you said, to have a career somewhere else in football, to make some kind of earning from football, and develop things away from the pitch as well. And I think in that respect, if you're at an academy from the age of 8 all the way through, you're going to develop some good habits for life as well.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. I think Jamie, I said the thing with Jamie Carragher's kid was in the academy, and he said this is one of the best places for you to learn. Yeah. It's as simple as that. If you make it as a footballer or whatever, it's a great place for you to learn. And I always get asked, well, would I put my kid in an academy? And I was like, yeah, I would, but I don't think I would put them in an academy that would stretch their. Obviously, if they got invited, I wouldn't want to stretch them to 4 nights a week, hour and a half travelling.
That's the main thing.
That's it. If it was a couple of nights a week, it's within 45 minutes travelling and stuff like that. Because I do see that balance of academic life, private life, and having a social life and stuff like that. But I do think academies tend to get a bad rep, but I think there's loads of great work going on them. I look at the environments players are learning in. I think they're great places to learn. And then the criticism they'll get is, well, not everyone makes it, but in the Premier League, you're looking at squads of 25, so you're looking at 500 players who you've got to be one of the best 500 players in the world. You've got to be in that bracket of top 1,000 to get to play there. So there's not much room there. So, but actually, if you end up Championship, League One, League Two, non-league, Conference South, that's a good career in football. And a lot of the players are filtering down to that. I think, obviously, the harder part then becomes if you're a Category 3 or 4 academy, you might only have 3 or 4 or 5 out of the 16, 20 that make a career in football. But that's just a trickle-down effect of where the quality is. But players at that level still do make good careers in football. And non-league, if you can pick up a decent earning at non-league alongside nowadays. A job, like the money in non-league football is good. And if you can do that alongside a job, it's a nice little bump up for your career. But like you said there, the discipline you learn, the skills you learn, the network you create from
Yeah.
playing in those environments can set you up for life, and
Yeah.
and those things are really important. So on that next part of your coaching journey, then of going from Gills to Charlton, what would you say the differences were? And I don't mean the differences in terms of this one was better than that one or anything like that. I just mean what were the different kind of environments like, and what did the difference, what different experiences did you have as a coach?
Yeah, I think I sort of alluded to it earlier on in terms of like the ability of the players is better. So we're going like from a Cat 3 to a Cat 2. So then naturally you're going to have some progression in the technical ability of the players, decision making, physically, and also the affordances to me as a coach in terms of the games we were playing, the games program. Typically with Gillingham we would play teams, and I disrespect them at all, of course, but like Luton, Wimbledon, MK Dons, Peterborough, these teams that lower down in the pyramid of football. In those, Luton and AFC Wimbledon producing some very, very good players at foundation phase, very, very good players. But then with Charlton, we're playing Tottenham, Chelsea, Arsenal, Fulham, Southampton, these guys. So like we're playing clubs that are further up in the pyramid, typically Premier League and Championship clubs. So naturally we're playing against better groups of players, better individuals, better athletes, better movers, better players technically, and the speed of the game is higher. So you're moving up in that respect. Went from Gillingham from 2 nights a week to 3 times a week at Charlton. So Gillingham was Tuesday, Thursday, 1.5 hours each time. Charlton Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 1.5 hours. So you get another hour and a half worth of coaching time per week, another hour and a half of contact time. And typically we would do on a Monday we would do a carousel, like a technical carousel, working on 1v1s, shooting, different like weaker footwork, lots of different types of practice. So we've got an extra session to work on individual development and overall foundational development of the players. So yeah, just in that respect, it's not one's better, not one's worse. It's just you've got more affordances, more of a budget, better access to better games, access to Premier League tournaments. So we're going and playing for the power play, futsal tournaments, those sorts of things. So yeah, you sort of a step up in terms of the affordances to the players and the coaches.
What would you say something that when you progressed on there, what was something extra you learned or developed as a coach?
Yeah, I think I was very lucky at Charlton to be around very good people within the foundation phase, and other phases at the club as well. And because at Sparrows Lane everyone's together, all the academies together, and the first team as well, which is amazing to have everyone. So you're always sort of like bumping into people in the first team, talking to them, people from different other age groups at the club to talk to them as well. So that was amazing to be able to talk to them about certain things, and get some ideas. Okay, I'm thinking about this during the session. What do you think? And you would talk about it. So that sort of interplay and the exchange of ideas was great. We had that at Gillingham as well, but we were very much limited in terms of the age groups because the first team wouldn't train there, and also the older age groups. So it would mainly between 9s and 14s at University of Kent, whereas at Charlton we'd go from 9s to first team, all at the same site, which is amazing. And yeah, just more staff as well, so we'll be able to sort of get more help in the sessions. We maybe had 3 coaches during a session rather than 2. And that was amazing as well in that respect. But yeah, just the affordances in terms of the more access to different people at Sparrows Lane was good. And I was very lucky to be able to talk a lot and learn from Steve Avery, who's finished his career at Charlton now, but was there for 20 years. Like a very amazing person, and was very much a teacher that moved into coaching. So you could see his teaching background in terms of how he communicates with the players and the coaches was very clear. Had a very good manner in terms of how he spoke. So yeah, just being around these guys, it's hard to pinpoint certain things, but you just take bits from everyone.
And I think one of my favourite things from football as well is the network you build up with players, people you played with. I think in my social group, my friendship group now, most of them people I played football with or now coaching.
Yeah.
And actually, that's where we had a really good core group of coaches at Gills, where we're all still friends, still meet up, still talk about football,
still play rubbish golf together,
still play terrible golf, still have our WhatsApp group where we gossip about football and everything like that. and those relationships are really important, and
Yeah.
that's where we had a really good group of like-minded people that got on. And one of my favourite things about football, and I think it's something that doesn't happen enough in Grassroots, is the little 20-30 minutes after your session
Yeah.
or before, where everyone has a cup of tea, how'd your session go? Oh, this bit was good,
Yeah.
this bit I struggled, or struggling with this kid. And then it's just sharing of like stories, advice. If you want to kind of let off some steam, you've got someone there who's been in that situation.
Yeah.
We've all been in it. We've done a session and it's just not worked. And you come in and you're just like, oh, it was terrible. And then but once you talk through it and then you start to analyse, well, why? It helps improve. And I think it's quite a hard thing to do in Grassroots because everyone kind of runs their own team, different age groups. They don't integrate or mix as much. It's something we encourage on the coaching courses. It's like, right, here's the start of your network. Here's your starting your network of people. Get to know everyone.
Yeah.
Like there's people you can talk to, people you can ask advice. Like build those relationships. And I think one thing I remember challenging you on, kind of when we worked together for years, and you wanted to then take the next steps, was network. I was like, just go and talk to people, network, and it's something that you have really done well over the last 3 or 4 years, especially, and done a lot during COVID and lockdown. So what did you do to then kind of? Yeah, I think you recognise quite quickly where we work in our area. You kind of, and when I area, I mean geographically where we live, quite a small area, and most people will stay here, will grow up here, have good careers down here, and great. But you wanted to get out and do other bits, and it was about kind of carving those new opportunities for yourself. So what? And this is probably the right part of your journey now of leaving Charlton. Of what did you do next to get to kind of where you're at now?
Yeah, so I think you alluded to it there in terms of like our location in Thanet. It's right in the corner of Kent, the corner of England. We've only got one professional team in our county, which is Gillingham and League Two. So then that's obviously into Medway, which is 45 minutes drive away. Training at Canterbury University of Kent, 35 minutes, and then after that you got the London teams. The teams on the border like Bromley. You got Mason, who are becoming bigger now and whatnot as well. But if you wanted to sort of get develop in football, you had to move out of that area or push up that way. And a lot of teams wouldn't be really, or clubs wouldn't be interested in sort of taking you on board if you weren't a little bit further up towards them in terms of knowing the local area and whatnot. But yeah, just talking to different people in terms of like, I'm really interested in coming to this club to watch sessions. Can I come in? So I watched like sessions at AFC Wimbledon, watched sessions at Charlton, and just being like quite insistent, really, like just like knocking on the door and keep knocking until you get an answer. Like
how many doors didn't answer, or how many knockbacks did you get?
Oh, plenty. Yeah, I mean, when I first started coaching, I'd send countless emails out to people about I want to come watch sessions, and I wouldn't get answers. Like a lot of these teams wouldn't answer me. Like, and Peterborough were good in terms of allowing me to come in as an intern at the time. But yeah, like it's difficult because a lot of academies and teams, they have lots of requests from people. I want to come and watch sessions. Can I get ideas? Can I share ideas with you? And it's hard to say yes to everyone, I'm guessing. I think in this country that culture is not so open as maybe in Holland or Belgium, for example, where it's very open door policy. So I would get a lot of rejections in terms of like coming to watch sessions at clubs and whatnot. But in terms of going up towards London to go and coach, I was going to be moving towards Rochester way, Medway area, to go and be closer to all these clubs, so I could get around all of the M25 to watch sessions and whatnot. But luckily before then I got my application approved for Charlton, and I started working with them. But I'd already been talking to them quite a bit at Charlton, and had been watching some sessions there beforehand anyway. So I was just very, very keen on, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to go and work at these clubs. How do I do it? And, can I come and talk to people, obviously I had some experience with Gillingham before for 3 years in the academy. Just trying to sort of ask people and to come and watch sessions, to be shown that I'm keen. I want to work in this environment. Here's how I'm going to help you. Here's my experience that I can help you with and stuff as well. So yeah, knocking a lot of doors.
So next steps then were abroad. But was it Denmark you went to when you were still with us?
Yes, I went to Denmark just on a study visit. So during my time at TSC, done a lot of study visits in Germany, Holland, in Denmark, in Spain. So
what do you mean by a study visit for those that don't know?
So Study visit would be typically going into another country, going to identifying a club or academies that you're interested in seeing how they work. Luckily, a lot of places like in Holland, for example, like PSV, not so much anymore. It's a bit more closed now. But when I went to PSV, I think 2015 or 16, it was open door, so you could come in and watch any session. You can watch under 18s, you can watch under 10s, you can watch under 15s, and they've got like a cafe there where you can get food and stuff and talk to people. Amazing environments. So I want to go to Eindhoven. I'm gonna book a flight, go to Eindhoven, get two nights in the hotel, and just walk into the academy. And sometimes beforehand, I would send some emails out and get some time to speak to some coaches and organise some stuff beforehand. But Eindhoven, for example, at PSV, I just walked in and just watched under 14s. I watched under 21s at that time, which was amazing, seeing how they do things. And then, for example, at FC Midtjylland, I emailed beforehand, okay, I'm interested in coming over to the academy to learn a little bit about how to do set pieces, because I knew they were very much developing good players in like this very small area in Denmark, and I wanted to see how that worked out. So I would contact people at the club, like technical director or a phase lead. Okay, I'm coming on these dates. I'm looking to come on these dates. Can you accommodate me? And FC Midtjylland were amazing. They were very welcoming. They took me in. They gave me like this a room in the academy, like an office basically. I slept on the floor in the office there for 4 nights. And then we went to a tournament in Copenhagen, and we all like slept in this like hall together with sleeping bags and stuff like that. So I very much got like an experience of what a typical week is like in the academy there. I think I was there for 5 days. And then, for example, they took me on the bus to Malmo to Sweden to watch a Europa League qualifying game there in August. And then we went together into this tournament in Copenhagen. Atletico Madrid were there, Man United were there, lots of top clubs in Scandinavia. And they asked me to do a presentation about what I saw. So they're very much interested in how I saw their academy and what my thoughts were. And I put this presentation for half an hour about what I saw during the tournament, about how I perceived how they develop players, under 13s, under 15s. So yeah, that's what study visit is really, just going and seeing your interest in terms of I want to go to this country, this club, and then get in contact with people, watching sessions, networking, linking, sharing ideas, maybe going out for some food with the coaches, or maybe sometimes you might just go there and be a bit more incognito and just sort of watch it. And then if you're in the city for a couple of days, I'll go and watch a couple of sessions at, I don't know, Inter Milan or whatever it is. But I'd done quite a few study visits in Europe because I wanted to learn. I was just keen to see how are the best coaches in the world in Europe, how are they developing players, what's the environment like.
What from those visits, Holland, Midtjylland, what couple of things stood out from any of those visits that they do differently to what we do here?
So in Eindhoven there was a lot of possession based, like a lot of rondo work, a lot of things that were related in terms of the structure of the structure at the weekend in terms of how they play 4-3-3 was related into the session as well, like the player placements in the sessions. So everything was geared towards their methodology in terms of playing 4-3-3, which is very Dutch. Midtjylland were very, very good in terms of their individual development. So I would see a lot of times centre back would get the ball and they'd drive out into midfield and break lines with their running with the ball, their passing forward. The centre midfielders would go off on a run through the centre of the pitch, overlapping the striker to get forward. Very, very creative. The players were very creative and they were very much like let the players make the decision. And if the centre midfielder gets the ball and dribbles and they get tackled and the other team scores, then they were always thinking about, okay, maybe what can you do better next time? They weren't telling, okay, pass the ball to the wingers. It was very much an individual, very creative individually in Midtjylland. And you can identify their style of play very easily because it's different to other places. So yeah, just in terms of what some clubs are doing in relation in the comparison compared to England, I think a lot of times you can see what their methodology is and how it's different to what it is like here. There's some stuff here in England that's similar to other places, and there's some stuff that is different. But every club's got their own little methodology or secret spice that's slightly different to other ones. So, and yeah, it was just amazing to see the organisation and how that organisation feeds off onto the pitch as well.
So from there, was that when you then decided you were going to go full-time abroad after Charlton?
No, it was always in my mind. I think ever since I started coaching, in terms of like my family, so my mum's from Germany, my dad's from Guernsey, but my dad done a lot of work in Africa, a lot of work in the Caribbean, a lot of work in the States. He was working as an aircraft engineer, mechanic on aeroplanes, and in the Middle East as well. So he was always telling about how things happened. This happened in this country. I was working here in this country, and he was telling stories about that, and I was always really interested. And when I was a kid, we would go away into Europe a lot, into Italy, France. We'd go to like motorsport events in Europe, and I was in the van like playing on my Game Boy, playing Pokemon on the Game Boy for hours on end with my parents. But I just loved it because we were together as a family, going off. I was very lucky in that respect. But I think that was always in my mind, like that sort of upbringing and my background, my family, being from different parts of the world, traveling different areas. I was like, okay, I want to do this. Like, I don't want to just like stay in my part of the UK and that's it. I want to go different places. I want to talk to people from different countries. I want to explore the world, and if I can do that through my job, like even better. So that was always in my mind. Okay, one day I want to be able to get to a stage where I can earn a living working abroad. And I think some years in my life it had been difficult. I'm in England still. I want to be able to go away, go here, and I'm still working through the process of doing that. And it is very tough for me mentally at times. But I always had that goal in mind to do it. And I'm now fortunate enough to be able to earn a living coaching in a different country, which was my goal. So yeah, it was in my mind from when I started coaching, I would say.
So was Spain the next?
Yeah,
Spain was the next one.
Yeah.
How did you end up kind of getting out to Spain and coaching out there?
Yeah, so Spain. I wasn't working in Spain as a coach. I wasn't earning money in Spain, so I had the idea. Okay, I'm going to go and work abroad. Where do I want to go? I want to go to Spain to learn a bit more about Spanish methodology of coaching. I spoke to some coaches from Spain, and I was saying, okay, which is the best area to go to? And they said, look, if you go to Barcelona, you probably have to learn Catalan and Spanish. So that's another barrier in terms of having to move away. But if you go to Valencia, for example, that area, great city, you can just speak Spanish there and get by. And the style of football is more, it's like a Barcelona like type methodology in terms of Valencia. Villarreal is similar. There are similarities. It's not hugely expensive like Barcelona or Madrid. It's easier to find your way there. So the years before I was preparing, I was saving money away from my time in England, saving money away so I can go there and I can afford to live there without having to work straight away. I've always been quite conservative with my money before that. So it's very difficult to get a job in another part of the world. You can't just apply to Spanish football clubs and okay, we're going to bring this English coach in full time. It just doesn't happen. It's very, very, very rare. So I went out there with no contacts. Went to Valencia, stayed in the hostel for the first month. Just went to football clubs. Like I turn up at a session, go on Google, turn up at a session at a club, speak to someone in my very broken Spanish at the time, and say, look, I'm interested in doing some sessions or watching more sessions, and they'd be like, okay, no problem, yeah, come and join. And yeah, so that was the idea. Save the money before I go away, quit all my stuff in England, moved to Spain, to Valencia, and then yeah, we'll just try and get more contacts. So I ended up getting some contacts at Villarreal and watching sessions there. One of the guys, Christopher O'Hare, was very, very good with me in terms of explaining some stuff about the club and helping me with watching some sessions. He's from England as well, another English coach that had moved away. Really nice guy, and some other sort of local clubs, high standard local clubs. I was watching sessions of them regularly, and yeah, eventually started working with a team called Alboraya in the north part of the city. Just volunteering. I was volunteering. I was doing a little bit of private coaching on the side to support my income, my rent, and that was it. I wanted to go away and see, okay, can I make this feasible to live away and work away in Spain? And it's very difficult to have a full-time job in Spain as a coach. Very difficult.
You told us that if we think we've got it bad here financially, from academies out there was another level.
Yeah,
If you can go into that.
Yeah. It's many coaches in Spain in academies are producing some of the best players in the world. Like the technical players in Spain, the decision making is a different level. It's incredible, but many coaches there are working part time, and they're working as a PE teacher, working as a lecturer, as a teacher alongside that support it. And for example, I think at Villarreal, overseeing their football ocho, it's like their foundation phase, 12's down. There's one coordinator and everyone else is part time. So if you compare that to Man City, for example, or I think every age group has a full-time staff, and then there's lead coaches between two age groups, and then there's a lead phase coach controlling everyone. So that might be 8 full-time staff in the foundation phase, or 7 full-time staff potentially. But yeah, and in top clubs like Barcelona, Real Madrid, similar story. Not many coordinators full-time. I don't think any of the foundation phase in my age groups are the league coaches are full-time. They're mainly part-time. Maybe in Barcelona, I think that might be different. But in terms of competitiveness in Spain for coaching roles, it's very competitive in England. But in Spain, it's another level. Yeah. There's more coaches competing for roles, more people willing to not get paid much money or get any money at all. They use a lot of interns. To go and do coaching hours on the pitch. So the competitiveness is up another level, and the ability to play is
what I'm always intrigued about what Spanish coaching is like, because people will say we don't have a philosophy here, we don't have a style of development for our players, whereas Spain very clearly do. What is that like out there?
Everything is in Spain. Everything is geared towards a methodology or style of play. So what we saw from Luis de la Fuente's side in the Euros, in terms of how the Spanish players are playing, in terms of it was 4-3-3 mainly, possession of the ball. When you lose the ball, get it back quickly. They want to control possession, dominate possession. That's the loose sort of ideas and methodology of Spanish style of play. Obviously, it's different between regions, but typically that is what most teams play like in Spain. They want to keep the ball, dominate the ball. They want to, when they lose the ball, get it back quickly. And all of the sessions, or most of the sessions, are revolved around the methodology, the style of play. So there's a lot of emphasis on positional games. So possession games whereby players are playing in positions that are related to the final game. A lot of rondos, as you can expect. There are rondos, positional rondos, transition rondos, where players are getting lots of touches of the ball, passing the ball. So there's not quite as much, like in England, there's a lot more dribbling, there's a lot more 1v1.
I was going to say, we've got a heavy focus on dribble,
yeah.
run with the ball, and that will have its... People will say, well, Spain are ahead of us, but actually, if you look at the amount of players we've produced and how much, as a country, we've progressed in terms of players we're producing, it's working. Also, the other argument is, so in Spain there's a lot of pass and move and stuff like that, which does, and positional play, which does also involve a lot of less movement, less running.
Yeah.
In terms of what helps there probably is the weather's a lot nicer.
Yeah,
if we've got players here where we say, right, let's get in positions, they need to move because they're freezing half the time.
Absolutely. I saw that firsthand. Like the football culture in Spain is unbelievable. So in Valencia, for example, in January, it will be, you might have a light jacket on. Like at night time it gets cold, but in daytime not always ridiculously cold. Like, so there might be kids playing all year round. You're able to play all year round in the streets in Spain all the time. It's very safe. Like kids can go out and play. And like Arthur, for example, by my flat there's like a little square, and I would go back after, I don't know, going to gym or whatever it is, after a session. 3:00, kids come out. They're with their grandma. The grandma will sit down with the mum, and they'll talk for 2 hours. And the kids are playing in the square for 2 hours while the grandparents are there. That culture is different. That doesn't happen so much here in England. And then try doing that in December over here. It's not possible.
No.
So, and like you say, the weather. So if you're playing in July, it's 35 degrees. You can't go run with the ball halfway up the pitch 1v1 all the time. It's completely different. So you have to keep possession more. You've got to keep the ball. So the culture dictates the style of play very much in Spain. And for me, the culture is the biggest driving factor of any any football culture in the world, any football style of play, the culture is the biggest driver of ability and how teams play. We can't import something what Brazil are doing in terms of getting thousands of hours on the street playing football, because they have issues over there that are completely different to us, different aspects. So we have to be very much in England and in other countries. We've got to be very unique to our cultural identity of the country. Yeah. And I saw that firsthand in Spain. And within a few weeks, I was like, okay, I get it. I know exactly why Spain play they do and why they develop the players they do, because they get so much access to playing football more than we do in England. And the style of play is going to be completely different because the weather's different, the culture's different, the language is different, the style of everything's different. So you have to be unique.
So you've now become a bit of a networking machine in Spain. You've built a big network, and
knocking lots of doors.
Through persistence, and then that's obviously led to your next opportunity, which was where you are now. If you want to go through kind of what you're doing now, and then also from that what you probably are looking at to do in the near future.
Yeah, sure. So I came back to England last May after being in Spain. To be honest, I got to a stage where I was thinking, okay, I'm going to come back for the summer. I need to reassess what I'm doing. I want to work away again somewhere. Maybe I might come back to England and get a role in a club in England. But in terms of dream of working in Spain in a full time in a club, it would have been extremely difficult. It wouldn't take another 5 years of work to do that, especially over Spanish speakers. It would have been very, very difficult. So I came back to England and was looking at more opportunities. Had an opportunity to go to America to work with a big university there. Unfortunately, that fell through after about a month of interviews and stuff happening. They wanted me to come, but there were some issues with visa and stuff like that. But yeah, eventually I got an offer for an interview with a Saudi Arabian club, Al Qadsiya, which is where I'm working now in the foundation phase as the under-11s 2013 league coach. And that opportunity came about through my time at Charlton, playing against teams around London and getting in contact with coaches in Charlton about more games, talking about coaching, talking about different ideas, and just keeping in contact with people and being interested. There was no idea of I want a job with you. It's no, I'm just interested in you. You're interested in maybe getting some ideas of me, and let's share and let's communicate. That was the networking. And then my friend said, look, they're looking for a coach. Would you be interested in having an interview? I said, yeah, okay, I'll do the interview. And luckily was able to be offered the job in Al Qadsiya, which is on the eastern province in Saudi. And as we know now, Saudi are investing a lot in football. They just got offered the World Cup for 2034. The Pro League is taking off. They've got Ronaldo's over there now playing. Neymar sometimes plays when he's not injured. So they're getting some of the biggest names in the world in Saudi, and there's a lot of young players going over there now. 18, 19, 20-year-olds in South America are going over to Saudi. So the football trajectory there is just taking off. And the club's idea is to have the best academy in Saudi Arabia and in Asia. And they wanted people who are expert or have expertise in different phases. So a lot of the guys in the youth development phase, pro phase, are typically Spanish or Portuguese. Technical director and the academy director are both Spanish. So they've got a lot of those guys in. But like in the foundation phase, myself and the lead phase coach, Kieran Weeks, are both English. They were very keen on, like we talked about, English coaches coming in, working directly with players about the individual development. They know that we're very well versed and have a DNA of 1v1, and they wanted us to come in and be the guys heading up the foundation phase. So it's very interesting to see that sort of progression of, okay, English guys mainly within the foundation phase, and then lots of Spanish and Portuguese working with the youth development phase and pro phase, because those guys they're the best in the world at that.
And they're kind of, football there's in its infancy as such in terms of that. So what's it, what would you say the stage they're at is like at the minute compared to what we have here?
Yeah, it's in its infancy for sure. The cultural aspect in terms of we had football in Europe and South America for a long time. It's been over a century now. We've had it part of the football of the country's culture within these parts of the world. In the Middle East, it's not the same. They really love their football. Like at Etihad in the west coast in Jeddah, they got 50,000-60,000 people going to every game. But in Eastern Province and in Riyadh, that's not quite the same. I know Al Nasser and Al Hilal, they have full stadiums every week with Ronaldo playing, these guys playing. But it's very much in its infancy, and there hasn't been an idea of like an academy like we have it in Europe. Not in any club really until this year, pretty much. I think Qadsir, the club I'm with, is the first club really to have everything from the ground up. In terms of now we have under 11s all the way through to under 18s, and in fairness, actually Etifak as well, who are next to us as well. They also have that structure as well. But a lot of the other clubs would have start from under 13s upwards, and Qadsir last year had under 13, 15, and under 18, I believe, last year. So there was a little bit of a break in how they're developing the players, and they would sort of have two age groups mixed together. But now everything's changing. It's all from under 11s upwards, and I'm sure in the future that will expand downwards as well. And yeah, the facilities now in the country are getting better and better. But like Hilal, the best team in the country, you know, they are looking to expand their facilities, and so is Al Qadsir, and all the clubs are looking to develop their facilities to accommodate all these teams. And it's going to change very quickly. But the organisation of everything in the academies is starting this year and last year. It's all work in progress, and things are changing very quickly. But you know, it's not like Barcelona, Chelsea, Tottenham. You know, all these clubs have had all this this organisation in time for the last few decades.
So, just because we're going to wrap up in a minute, if for anyone who's listening who has got aspirations to kind of maybe go abroad and work, create a career in coaching, but are not quite set on doing it in this country, but might want to do it anywhere, what advice would you give them?
My first advice would be, I think you have to love what you're doing, and you have to be really willing to put in the hours to get better and develop. I think just like anything in life, if you want to progress in other areas of other industries, if you invest in yourself, then it's going to pay off eventually. It might not happen tomorrow, it might not happen next week, but it might happen in 5 years. So you just have to be willing to invest in yourself, to learn, develop, read books, watch sessions, watch YouTube videos, think about the game, write things down, get a tactics board, move things around, talk to people. You have to be willing to go and share ideas with other people, give something to someone else as well before you get received. Don't ask all the time and take things. I think when I was younger, I was very much, I didn't know what I was doing in terms of talking to other people, and I was like taking things a lot without giving back. But now I'm very much like, look, okay, this is what I can offer to you. What can you offer me, sort of thing. It's like an exchange of ideas, exchange of practice. I'm just very inquisitive. Just be inquisitive. Just try and learn all the time. Try and develop, and just be willing to go the extra mile. You know, whatever you're doing, do it to the best of your ability, and then go do a little bit extra. If you do things in half measures, then you'll start to get a reputation of someone who doesn't do a job. So you have to, everything you do, whether it's a tot session with 3-year-olds, do that to the best of your level and best of your ability, and give all your energy for it, for the kids, and just be willing to go and always do a little bit extra. Every session you turn up to, have enthusiasm, have energy, make sure they're enjoying it, and then you'll enjoy it as well. So just be willing to learn, to develop, talk to people, share ideas, and do everything to your best of your ability.
Excellent. So that's been brilliant and really, really informative. And I mean, a question we ask everyone, although your journey now has progressed on, but you've worked in grassroots football in this country and other countries for years, as well as more of the professional game. And the question we ask everyone is, what's the best thing about grassroots football in this country? And then what is the one thing that you would change if you could?
Yeah, so I think the best thing about grassroots in this country is that it just gives an opportunity for kids to enjoy football. Like we talked about earlier on about our network in terms of like who we know in football, and our friends, like making friendships with people has come through playing football and has come through coaching. So, and I actually talked to some of the kids I coached a moment about that. For me, not everyone's going to be a professional footballer, of course, but you can get so much out of the game, and the game is a lifestyle. So the best thing for in grassroots football in this country is just the opportunity to meet new people, to make friendships, to enjoy playing football, to be around football. It's just a game itself for me. One thing I would change, I just think that just don't take it so seriously. You know, the under-8s cup final is not going to be like the Champions League final. It's not the same. So just make sure the kids come off with a smile on their face. Make sure they are enjoying it. Make sure they're learning something. You know, make sure they are having a great environment to learn the game and to look to improve and encourage them. Okay, you can play at a high level if you want to, but make sure you enjoy it. And whatever level they fall at, whether that's, you know, captain of England or whether that's captain of their under-18s team, local under-18 team, that's fine. But just don't be so serious about it. Enjoy football. If you're a coach, if you're a player, just enjoy it. Don't put so much pressure on the kids when you're coaching. Help them, of course. That's our job as coaches, but make sure that you're not shouting at them. You're not creating a bad environment, and that goes for parents as well. After the game, don't tell your kid what they should have done in the last minute to score a goal. Ask them, do you have fun today? Do you enjoy it? Okay, great. Let's go for some ice cream. Let's go for a burger, whatever it is. Don't put so much pressure on people. That's the main thing I would say.
Brilliant. So that's been amazing. You're now going to do, for our Patreon Ultimate members, going to do your favourite sessions on a tactics board, which we're about to put together. But just, it's been, obviously we've not seen each other for a while because you've been abroad, but it's been great to catch up.
Of course.
And yeah, thank you for everything. Cheers, mate.
No, thank you very much. Thank you, Seb.
Good
Cheers.
stuff.